So a lot of students from India want to apply abroad for an MBA program. However, they work with the misconception that in order to apply abroad, they need years and years of work experience. Now this is simply not true. There is an option called as deferred MBA program option. If you apply via that option, you don't need any years of work experience whatsoever. So on today's video, I'm going to discuss what is the meaning of deferred MBA programs and how you can apply to these programs. So let's get started. So let's quickly try to understand what is the meaning of deferred MBA programs. Now deferred MBA programs are programs, these are essentially MBA programs, and these programs are open to final year undergraduate or graduate students who do not have any work experience. Let's try to understand this statement from an example. So let's say that if you are a final year undergraduate student at IIT Delhi and if you want to apply abroad to Yale Silver Scholar, which is a deferred MBA option, you can apply and you would qualify for this program. However, if you graduate from IIT Delhi, work for 1 year, then pursue a master's program from the US, and then if you want to apply for a deferred MBA program, you would not qualify for that program. So just keep that in mind and plan your deferred MBA application strategy accordingly. Now the second important point to note here is that the degree that you get after you graduate from a deferred MBA program is that of an MBA. So if you graduate from, let's say, Stanford MBA, vis-a-vis if you graduate from Stanford deferred MBA, you would get an MBA degree at the end of the coursework. So even from a course structure or teaching point of view, there is essentially no difference. However, an important point to note is that different deferred MBA options would have different formats. Let's compare two key formats. So one is of Yale Silver Scholar format. So what happens there is that once you graduate from your undergraduate program and if you have gotten accepted to Yale's deferred MBA option, you will go to Yale directly after your undergrad. You will complete 1 year. Then you will work for 2 years, come back to Yale and complete your complete degree and get an MBA. If you compare this to Stanford deferred MBA option, what happens there is that you get accepted to deferred MBA program at Stanford in your final year. Then you work for 2 years and then you go and complete your degree at Stanford and then get an MBA. So essentially program formats are different, but at the end of which you will still end up getting an MBA degree. So a lot of top tier MBA programs offer deferred MBA option. For example, there is Harvard 2+2, Stanford, Yale Silver Scholar, Darden. In Europe, you have schools like IESE, which offer a deferred MBA. And recently, a lot of schools have started offering the deferred MBA option. For example, Columbia has it, MIT has recently started offering it, Chicago Booth has started offering it. So just check all these websites. I'll put a link in the description box of these deferred MBA programs. So now let's try to analyze what are the benefits of applying for a deferred MBA program. Now in my opinion, there are 3 key advantages if you are applying for a deferred MBA. So the first key advantage is the flexibility. Imagine this, if you are a final year undergraduate student and if you get accepted to a deferred MBA program, you would get to know the result even before you graduate. So Harvard or Stanford, whichever deferred MBA you have applied for, they will tell you the results even before you graduate. So then you can plan your career accordingly. So if you want to pursue certain kind of jobs, you can do that. If you want to run your own business, you can do that. If you want to travel the world, you can do that. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. That is the first key advantage. The second key advantage of applying for a deferred MBA program is that deferred MBA programs have the highest ROI. So ROI means return on investment. Now you can understand this from the fact that people make most of their salary or most of their post-MBA salary is much higher than their pre-MBA salary. Now since deferred MBA students graduate quite early with just 2 years of full-time work ex, they will end up maximizing their ROI. So this is the second key advantage. Now the third key advantage is the leverage that you get by getting accepted to a deferred MBA. For example, if let's say that you get accepted to a deferred MBA program in your final year of your undergrad, then you can write to firms such as McKinsey, BCG, Bain, or if you want to work in private equity or VC capital firms, then you can write to them saying that you have been accepted to a program like Harvard or Stanford, and you can try to get a leverage out of it in terms of better jobs or internships. So that is always an advantage for you. Now this leverage can translate into running your own business or getting support from Stanford or Harvard, wherever you have been accepted, even before going there. In essence, if you get accepted to a deferred MBA programs, you can use that brand equity to get better jobs, maximizing your ROI, and also gaining a lot of knowledge along the way by experimenting with your career. So let's try to understand the application process of a deferred MBA program. So the application is divided into 3 parts. The first part is standardized testing. Now here you can take GMAT or GRE, you don't need to take both. It does not matter which exam you are taking, whether GMAT or GRE. What matters, however, is that you need to have gotten a threshold of at least 95th percentile plus score, because the deferred MBA programs are extremely competitive. So aim for a 95th percentile either on GMAT or GRE. So that's one. The second part of the application process is the written application. Now written application is very extensive. Our written application comprises of elements like resume, letter of recommendation, you have application form, you have video interview component, you have essays. So it's very extensive and it's a very cumbersome process. So get started with your application as soon as possible and at least give yourself 8 to 12 months to complete the entire application process. So on the application, you will need to speak about your profile or write essays around your profile. This indirectly depends on the kind of activities you have participated in college or what kind of internships you might have done. So make sure that you pursue right kind of internships during your college and you participate in extensive activities so that you get some fodder material to write on your essays. Because this is not a component or an element that you can develop in the last 3 months before applying to a deferred MBA option. So the final stage is the interview stage. Once you have taken your standardized test and you have compiled your application, you just submit your application, and if your application is shortlisted, then you are invited for an interview. Now what all is covered and what type of questions are asked on the interview, I'll put a link in the description box of a client whom I helped to get into Yale Silver Scholar program, and we have discussed in detail what are the components of the interview. So please check that link in the description. So one question that I frequently get is that what kind of profiles do get accepted at deferred MBA programs? Now it is no surprise that given the popularity and the competition of deferred MBA programs, it is quite difficult to get into these programs. The competition is extensively high and you need to prepare well in advance, but I'll try to highlight some key things that you can do to improve your odds of getting through these programs. So first and foremost, you should try to get strong internships. As I touched upon this subject earlier, I'll just elaborate a little bit more. So if you're looking for strong internships, don't just simply pursue an internship with no-name companies or like companies in which almost all of your classmates are doing an internship with. Try to get strong brands on your resume. For example, you can aim to do a management consulting internship with firms such as BCG, Bain, McKinsey. You can aim to get into an investment banking internship or a private equity VC type of internships. Or if you want to do internships with smaller companies, at least try to go abroad and do an internship. Now you might say that, hey, my college does not offer such an option where I can go abroad, do an internship, and firms such as BCG, Bain, McKinsey do not come onto our campus. I do understand that, but see, please try to understand that deferred MBA programs are very selective. So we need to make things happen. If we just depend on our college and expect college to provide us with all the resources that, hey, here is McKinsey, go apply, it's not going to work out. You need to be proactive in terms of reaching out to people on LinkedIn. You need to write to multiple firms. At the very least, even if you cannot do an internship with a big brand company, try to write to companies abroad, right? Try to do like unpaid work, try to build your profile in some way. That is going to be extremely important. The second important component, and this goes without fail, is that maintain a high GPA and get a high standardized test score. So the third important component is that you need to have some kind of unique factor on your profile. Now this could be that you have started a business of your own, a small business, even if it does not make any revenues, it's fine. It could be that you write on forums like Quora. It could be that you have partnered and worked with some kind of non-profit. It could be that you have written a book. It could be any of these things, but there needs to be a unique selling point on your profile. Now, how do you identify a unique selling point? It's fairly simple. So how do you identify a unique selling point? So unique selling point basically means that you need to do things that are very, very unique compared to what other people usually do. For example, if everyone in your college is volunteering with a non-profit, then doing that activity will not make you unique. You need to find something else to do, right? So just try to identify what that USP can be on your profile and try to develop that. So let's look at some of the frequently asked questions around deferred MBA applications. So the first common question that I get is that I am not from an IIT. Can I still get into a top tier deferred MBA program? So the short answer is absolutely yes. You can get into a top tier deferred MBA program provided that you develop your profile in the right direction. In fact, you can check the link in the description box. It is of a client of mine who is currently studying at Yale Silver Scholar program. He was not from an IIT. So you can, like him, you can get into a deferred MBA program as well, provided that you follow the right strategy and build your profile in the right direction. In fact, every year I work with at least 2 candidates who are not from top tier undergrad programs. They still end up going to top tier deferred MBA options. Now the second question that I get is that is it better to do a deferred MBA program abroad or is it better to do a MBA from an IIM in India? Now honestly, this is not an apples to apples comparison and it would require me to make a separate video. Please comment in the description box in case you would want me to make that video, but I'll just give you a broad summary here. So in my opinion, you should do a deferred MBA program if, number one, you require a higher brand equity on your profile. So schools like Yale, Harvard, Stanford, they generally have a better brand recognition and brand equity compared to IIMs globally. So whether you want to work in India or abroad, this brand equity really helps. Number two, this brand equity also helps you target really top level jobs. For example, if you want to work with a top tier VC firm, or if you want to work in a certain office of McKinsey, this brand equity can help you a lot. The second point is that if you want to work outside India, then definitely a deferred MBA program is the way to go. In India, IIMs are very well known. If you want to have a very India specific career, then definitely at least IIM ABC can give you decent jobs. The third and the most frequent question is that, hey, can you comment a little bit more about scholarships and financing? So of course, in terms of expenditure, if you're applying for a deferred MBA programs, the expenditure is going to be on the higher side, right? If I give you a number, it will just scare you away and you might shut this video down and move on to a different video. But please hear me out here. So definitely the expenditure is on the higher side. You would have to incur an expenditure of approximately, let's say 1.3 crores if you want to go to Yale or Stanford, but you need to see this in a holistic manner. What I mean by that is that if you actually analyze the number of people who receive some kind of financial aid from a school like Harvard or Stanford, close to 50% of the class ends up getting some sort of scholarship, so which significantly offsets your cost. Additionally, there are multiple other type of scholarships that you can apply for. I will keep putting the links in the description box of this video. So just come back and visit this video again. You will find all that information. Additionally, even if we assume that you don't end up with any scholarship, you can still finance your MBA, and let me tell you how. So there is a company called as Prodigy Finance. It gives up to 80% of the loan amount that you require to pursue your MBA. So that can significantly bring down the cost that you need to incur in order to pursue your deferred MBA option. So if this is a way to go, and if you're okay taking that kind of loan, you can definitely do it. A lot of people then ask me that, hey, is it worth taking a loan if I want to pursue an MBA abroad? Now my question to you would be that, why would a company give out a loan unless they know for sure that after graduating from these programs, you would end up with a good job and would be able to repay them back. Their entire business model would fail, right? But a company like Prodigy Finance is growing significantly because of the fact that they are backing up candidates who are getting into top tier MBA programs and are still getting great jobs, which offsets the cost. So keep these points in mind. Hopefully you found this video to be informative. And let me know in case you have any questions. You can post them in the comments. I will definitely answer each of those comments. And let me know what kind of videos you would want me to make. I would definitely make those videos going forward. Thank you so much.